Hey, hey, South Bay. This is South Bay by Jackie, the podcast, and I'm Jackie Balestra, your resident guru on all things South Bay. Now, while this is a new show and a new format, I'll still be covering the many amazing things to do, places to go, and people to know in our fabulous South Bay bubble. Now, today we're going to be discussing real estate, a topic near and dear to all of our hearts. And our guest today is Michele Lehman Brown. Now, Michele is the executive director for the real estate professionals team at Keller Williams South Bay. She's an experienced keynote speaker, a member of the California Association of Realtors, the National Association of Realtors, the California Apartment Association, and was awarded the prestigious Realtor of the Year by the South Bay Association of Realtors. So we've established that Michele knows real estate. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Jackie, how are you?
I am well. I know you're well. We ran into each other last weekend, a little Sunday fun day.
How fun.
It was. Okay, so lot going on the last 13 months. And one of the things I really want to drill down on is the various real estate markets, industrial, rental, co-working space, commercial, retail. I want to specifically get into how COVID has affected each and the impact COVID has had on each of the different markets, because everything I'm reading, everything is up in the air. Everything is in a state of flux. And so you're the person to talk to about that. So where do you think we should start?
Let me start with the South Bay is, as you said, everything is in a little bit of flux, but the South Bay in general has never responded much to the flux that we see throughout Northern California and most especially throughout the rest of the United States. It's we have our little roller coaster, but ours is the baby roller coaster in the kids section of Disneyland. It's not in the adult section. We don't have major roller coasters. People will disagree with that about the 2007, 2008 foreclosure and notice of default issues that we went through with all the short sales, but it still was never had the impact on the South Bay that it did in other states and other cities. Now, I think we're seeing a bit of a bubble, but it's very unpredictable and it will stay in flux. It's homes here in the South Bay are selling from 11 to 18% more, sometimes 20% more than what they're listing for. And they're not, there's a lot of very talented, qualified realtors in the South Bay that are not overlisting, the list price or underlisting the homes. They're just, one example that I'll cite to you is I have a client who was looking at a home in off of Prairie, east part of Hawthorne, that was listed for $785,000. Darling home, all pottery barned out and priced right for 3-bedroom, one. An adorable house, and the agent who had it listed was showing it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 5 hours. And with COVID, that's by appointment only. We can only have 2 people in the property at a time and have to sanitize before and after everyone comes in. And my client wanted to see it. I called to make an appointment. He wanted to see it on Saturday because they were on Friday because they were going to be out of town over the weekend. They were booked. It had been on the market is 0 days, so less than 24 hours. They were booked for Friday and Saturday. He couldn't get in on Sunday because he was going to be out of town. He called, the realtor called me Monday and said that they had had so many people on a waiting list waiting for cancellations that the sellers agreed to let them have a few hours on Monday. My buyer couldn't get there. He called me Tuesday morning to see if there was any chance it was in escrow.
Yeah.
They had 100 showings, 40 offers, and it went into escrow more than $100,000 over list, more than $100,000 over list
That's
price.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
I know,
A-
and it's happening everywhere. I have clients who, I have a client who, when COVID started, she's been wanting to retire and move to Colorado, and so she bought some land and she got with the builder and she contracted to start her build, and she said when COVID started, she said, I think I'm going to wait um, until the build is finished before I sell my house and just make one move and not have to move there twice. And I told her the other day, I said, you're missing out on some money because you're going to sell for much more than what you list for because there's a shortage of inventory. And I that's what everybody's saying, there's a shortage of inventory. And I was looking at that number compared to last year. There's not really a shortage of inventory. We just have more buyers than ever. And so many people are selling that are frustrated and they're leaving the state or they're moving into the suburbs. But just as many of those that are selling, there's 3 times as many that have been waiting for, not expecting to overpay, but waiting to buy in good school districts. That's my client that was wanting to buy the house I just told you about. They wanted to put money into a better school district and into the home rather than pay for private schools in the future because
well,
they're
tell me something. We've been on a national level, we've been hearing about, people are fleeing the big cities. Yeah. So I'm sure that has a bit to do with it because technically the South Bay isn't a big city. We're suburban. Um, but places like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, from what I understand their prices are coming down a little bit because people are fleeing to the.
That's correct. That's correct. That is exactly what's happening. There's an agent that we work very closely with in the San Francisco and Bay Area, and he was on our show, our podcast a few weeks ago, saying that exact same thing, that prices are going down and they're having trouble selling, and there's a long days on market and that sort of thing. South Bay, again, is kind of isolated from what's happening in Los Angeles, but even in LA, there's not really a decline in prices. Things are still getting overbid or selling right at list price. So that's still a healthy market. And we have, I sold 4 condos in 3 months on the Esplanade in April, May, and June of last year. The people that lived in those condos were moving to Palm Springs and to the Riverside area and out of state. The people who bought them lived in the Riverside area, but it was older generation who were downsizing and selling their homes and moving to the beach. They wanted fresh air, they wanted beach air, and they wanted the convenience of all of our healthcare districts here.
There's a,
So
there's a lot of move. There's a
it's
lot
just
of movement going on. Well, while we're talking about residential, the rental market has been interesting as well. One thing that I saw across the board with everybody we know, they're either college age students or their children that had just gotten out of college and had an apartment elsewhere or sharing with roommates. They all moved back home. Everybody, all the
mhm,
babies flocked back to the nest.
mhm.
And so, particularly where I live, there are a lot of garden apartments, and there's just during COVID, during the last 13 months, and this was probably about 7 months ago that I was looking because I had a friend looking for an apartment. There was a huge amount of apartments available. They weren't necessarily advertising them. The rents were lower, but they didn't want to rent to people. One of my
I
friends
know.
that was moving back to the area, she was looking, and the rents came down considerably because right at the beach, right? She was willing to put up a year's rent up front to pay to get the apartment because landlords are very wary because of the rental the foreclosure mandates that came down, that you couldn't foreclose, you couldn't throw people out if they couldn't pay rent or
You
mortgage.
can't
So
evict. Mhm.
is that what you saw all over the place as well?
Well, that is happening, and as you know, Jackie, I have a property management company as well, and so we try to educate a lot of the owners that, for example, with your friend, whether there's an eviction moratorium or not, if an owner of a property accepts 6 months rent in advance or 12 months rent in advance, even prior to the pandemic, if they accept 6 months or 12 months of rent, then they can't make that resident move out. So, you know, a lot of, and this was 5 and 6 years, 8 years, 10 years ago, depending on where you live in this. If someone's making their living through illegal or borderline activities and they have a lot of cash and they don't have good credit, or they, you know, and they buy their way into a building, an owner who does that, and sometimes owners get in a little bit of financial trouble and a year's rent sounds good to them, but if they then intend to evict that person for disrupting the livelihoods of the people in the building, they not only have to evict them, they have to refund all of that money.
Uh,
They can't take that rent in advance. So here, what you're talking about, we're seeing that that landlords, they don't know how to properly screen a renter, and there was so much confusion around all the mandates and the edicts, and they were afraid of the pandemic. So those that could afford to would rather sit. There are 600 apartments available for rent in Redondo Beach right now, and
right now.
800 and something in Torrance. I mean, it's like amazing.
Yeah, well, the rent, one place she was looking at, I think the rent was originally $3,000. They brought it down to like $2,400. And if she was willing to pay a year up front, I think they were going to accept $2,200 a month.
Yeah.
So great time for if you're looking to rent something. But I said, this is on the beach. This is a block or two from the beach. So that's kind of exciting.
I know. Yeah, it is exciting, and it's also a little bit scary because economically, you know, in the South Bay, we have a mixture of people who either bought their properties a long time ago or they've inherited them. And so
Mhm.
there's very little to no debt unless they've refinanced. Just like in 2006, 7, 8, when the foreclosures were going on, that the notices of default, mortgages that go into default rarely occur with income properties where there's multi-units, because the rents pay the debt, pay the expenses, unless it's totally mismanaged, right?
Right.
So they rarely get into problems, but there are property owners who recently do have mortgages, or they refinance to make improvements to the property, and they have a debt, they have a mortgage to pay, and they can't pay their mortgage because the renters don't pay that. We're very fortunate with our company, our property management company, the units that we manage. I have two people who have been delinquent in their rent, and one of them is now caught up to within 1 month. But I had a young man call me the other day about taking over property from him, new construction, brand new property in right near the new by SoFi Stadium, and 12 units that have been vacant for a year, and they have a construction loan. And you know, construction loans, the interest
Yeah.
rates on those are much higher, so they're a little bit desperate to get that leased up. And it's just economically, it is going to show an impact eventually with the property owners that can't afford to pay their mortgages because the
Yeah.
rents aren't being paid.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something. Well, with the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures, did the landlords get a break on paying property taxes, or no go
Not
there?
not that I've heard of, no. The where the initiative is that they have a landlord reimbursement program for this. If the landlords can apply to the state of California, and the state has a subsidy that will pay back the delinquent rents. If they will pay 75% of the delinquent amount, the landlord forgives the other 25%.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah. So if a renter is 3 months behind, and a landlord applies to the state, the paperwork also has to be signed by the renter so that the renter knows
Right.
that the landlord's forgiving that other 25%, because the renters are, you know, they're good people, and they're living in fear too that they're going to get evicted as
Yeah.
soon as that gets lifted. And there are guidelines in place to take care of that. And another thing that's happening is that the state is going to, I heard, I don't know if this has happened certainly yet or not, the delinquent rent is not going to be allowed to be shown as a cause for eviction because it's going to become civil debt
Right.
and not be called delinquent rent. So if it ever got to a point where you could evict a resident strictly for the delinquent rent if they couldn't pay it back, it's now going to be referred to as a civil debt, and the landlord will have to go to civil court to collect it and not be able to evict based on that. But there is a subsidy plan in place where the landlords can apply to the state of California and get a subsidy for 75% of the delinquent amount if they forgive the other 25%.
I hope everybody knows about this. There's a lot of great information. I bet you there are a lot of landlords out there that don't know about this. And completely off topic, I just read today, completely off topic, but I got to put it out there. I just read that LA County, people that have died due to COVID in LA County can get up to $9,000 reimbursed funeral expenses.
Really?
Really? I just read that today. Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Off topic, but a good thing to know.
Well, there is a lot of that information around that a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
And I see it every day when I talk to property owners every day, because they typically manage the property themselves and they don't have a management company and they don't belong to an association. So anyone that's looking for that information, they should call the California Apartment Association of Los Angeles is up in Larchmont. They should call there, or they are welcome to call me and I'll just send it out to them for free. Yeah.
All right. Do me a favor. Give out your contact information because you're a font of information. Give out your contact, how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. My email address, Michele Brown, Michele is with one L, MicheleBrown @kw.com. And my cell phone number is 310-944-5188. 310-944-5188. And our website is Real Estate Professionals International. So you just Google Michele Brown, it'll pop up. My cell phone's there. So
Okay.
we're happy.
Do you still go the Lehman in the middle? Because I always know you as Michele Lehman Brown.
Well, because that's my maiden name, and that's how my other last name changes frequently. So.
Good on you.
So the Lehman is how most people know me. So I just kind of keep that in the middle.
Good idea. Good idea. Okay, so listen. So the industrial market, which I have a little inside knowledge on, right? That's what's happening there. From what I've heard, my insider knowledge is unbelievable. And from what I understand, it's all because of Amazon, that there is not an industrial building to be had.
Yep. That's the truth. And you probably know more with your insight about industrial than I do, because it really isn't a park that we play in very much, because it's not my area of expertise and I usually refer that out. But I do know that is a huge problem. I mean, there's a commercial agent on my team, but our commercial specialty is multifamily housing and retail. But there's a commercial agent in our office who specializes in industrial, and he had people that were, trying to get the old Costco store, which, Amazon yeah.
From what I understand, Amazon has taken every vacant industrial building in Southern California. It's happening all over the country.
All over Texas too, yeah.
And they're hiring multiple developers to build for them all over the country. In addition to that, I just heard something about, because my husband, as you know, is an industrial real estate developer. And it used to be when you were working on a project, you would maybe 2 or 3 months out for your steel order. Now it's like 8 or 10 months out, because Amazon is taking all the steel too. And plastics, other construction.
Them and Skechers.
Well, Skechers is our home boys, so we're okay with Skechers. But yeah, Amazon is just literally taken that, and people are scrambling, and industrial rates are going up like nobody's business. And as I said, I know that's not your particular area of expertise, but I did want to mention it. Another very interesting thing that I just read an article in the Easy Reader about is the co-working space. WeWork, Regis,
yes.
That Do you know what can you tell us about that? That's
Well,
interesting.
the only thing that I really have learned about it has been very recent, because there's a lot of offices, small boutique offices and retail centers and things that have closed. And some of those were insurance offices, law offices, and even one of our real estate offices. And so a lot of those professionals have learned to, where we typically visit our client doesn't come to us
Mhm.
often. And so we've all learned to work from home offices or our cars, and those pop-up spaces, they're not really pop-up spaces, but they are everywhere. And your membership to one pretty much allows you at least a conference room. And when you can go and meet with clients, I can go to Ventura. There's a probate attorney group that we work with in Ventura, and we can meet halfway and get a Regis and meet there for the day in a conference room, and it's all good. And they don't have to come to the South Bay, and I don't have to go to Ventura, and it works out well. So I think they were suffering a little bit, I know, before COVID, but I think there's going to be a rebound in that market. Is that
Yeah,
what you're reading?
yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, there was an article in the Easy Reader last Thursdays, and they were talking about how we have a couple of them here in the South Bay. UNITA, we have Social Workspace. Oh, I'm forgetting the rest of the other names, but they're pivoting to make it more attractive, and along with the shared workspace, I want to get into commercial because similar things are happening. And from what I read in the article, what's going to happen is happening with commercial space is going to benefit the shared space in that commercial space, offices, large corporations, small businesses. A lot of people, we've been put into a forced digital transition.
Yeah,
That's what it is. I heard somebody mention that term to me a year ago when this first started, and they said it's a forced digital transition, and that's exactly what it is.
it
We all,
is.
we all went kicking and screaming into the brave new world of virtual, and it
An
was some.
example, I don't want to interrupt you, but an example that I have it, but I did anyway. An example that I have, a good example that I have of that is that a large portion of my team works in the upper tier market, luxury homes and estates. And we were already seeing a shift, a change in the way that we sold those estates and those properties. Homeowners were not receptive to having a lot of people through. We were Beverly Hills and Orange County in their upper tier markets stopped open houses a long time ago because there's a lot of art and valuables and passports and prescription medications and jewelries and things that they don't want people coming through their houses. And one person, we always have two or three or four people at an open house. And now for us to try to talk to someone in our area, especially South Bay, we sell all over Napa and everywhere, but the especially in our area, they weren't used to hearing that.
Yeah,
If I a year and a half ago, tried to convince someone that they didn't need to put a sign in the yard, and they didn't need to have an open house. They were still going to get good offers for their homes and do it by appointments only. The sign in the yard only lets burglars know that there's stuff packed in the garage getting ready to move, right?
yeah.
So if I had had that conversation with them 18 months ago, it's a little bit harder to explain and to rationalize to them, and to do a listing appointment via Zoom and Facebook. It would have been impossible. It would have been impossible for us to work. But the pandemic, the universe, whatever the sources, took that away from us, and we're not the bad guys having to teach to the learning curve. It was something that the consumer demanded, and rightfully so, that they didn't want all of that stuff going on, that there are other ways to digitalize the
Right.
business.
Well, yeah. I knew a while ago, several years ago, people started doing the drone footages of tours of the interiors. No, you're right. If somebody came up to me and said, if somebody came up to me and said, "This is a great house, but you can't tour it, but buy it anyway," I don't know that I would do it either.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we've been forced into this, and a lot of companies that were very wary about having their employees work from home, they were very aware about it. It's happening. It's doable for a lot of companies.
Hmm.
That's Facebook and Google have already announced all of their employees can work from home forever. But there's another side to that. I know a lot of people that are working from home, and it's not working.
You're
They've
right.
got young children.
Yes.
They may not have the space to have a separate office where they can close the door. There,
Or a nanny.
or yeah, or a nanny, yeah. Young families, that's difficult. Especially both people working. Most people don't have two offices in their homes, and somebody to care for the children. So there's always going to be a need for office space. Um, at first, when this all happened, I thought the worst. I thought people are not going to renew their leases. Everybody's going to be working from home. But the more I talked to people and the more I heard about it, there is always going to be a need for office space. It may not be 10,000 square feet. It may not be 9 to 5. It may be flex, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. But there are always going to be people that need a place to go work.
Hmm. Well, and I think, to the extent that we have office space, as just only speaking to my company and how we work, there's a certain culture with that you don't get the synergy from in a Zoom meeting every week.
Right.
So, and we meet tenaciously to review files and make sure everybody's getting the highest level of service, and reviewing the files to see if there's anything more we can do for someone here or there. If we don't want to, it's like a law firm. Everyone looks at everyone's files so that we're not missing a step.
Right.
And we can do that on a Zoom meeting, and take a restroom break and grab another cup of coffee and get it done. But the bonding and the culture and the being together, the energy of team building, really, we've enjoyed that we could be back in the office 1 or 2 days a month together, 6 feet apart with masks on, but it still feels different, and it still feels better than being totally digitalized.
Right. Right. That was another thing. I heard that, and I don't know. I read this in some publication. Don't take my word on it, but I heard that they're talking about by May 1st opening up capacity to 80% from 50%, and then possibly by June 1st being at 100% capacity. They've already. Well, the city of Torrance announced that all of their uh, contact sports, football, baseball, wrestling, all is all wide open now, and so if things go according to plan, it looks like in the next couple of months things will be wide open again.
I,
Um,
I'm sure that they will, but I think there are some industries like ours that have been forever changed.
yeah. Oh,
Forever changed.
absolutely. Well, your offices, where I live, there are several real estate offices, and it's not a place where you go and you sit 9 to 5. It's more like a place to park yourself for a couple of hours. You need to file some paperwork, do something, chat with somebody in the office, and then you're out doing your thing, right? So
Yeah, we don't even pick up checks anymore. They just go
yeah,
into the bank account, right? So it is a place. It is a place. Again, it's a place of culture and camaraderie and to share things, and it is a place to come together and have some permanent files. It works well when you have an administrative team.
right,
And every good productive solid real estate firm has a strong administrative team, and that's their hub, and they are there, and there's some osmosis that happens in knowing what's going on with the team when the two or three people that manage it are overhearing each other's conversations with everyone.
right,
So they won't go away, but the how they look is going to change, and they already were. We were already downsizing, and we were already getting glass walls and fishbowl offices and a more industrial, higher energy feel.
yeah,
So that was already happening, and I think that's forever changed. I know I was in a board meeting this morning, and I heard that the president of the Association of Realtors and the president of the Apartment Association were getting a meeting with the governor this week to say, hey, everything else is opening up, and when can we have our open houses back, to see what happens with all of that, and the COVID compliant forms that everyone has to sign before they can enter a property. Um, I haven't heard that they had the meeting yet or what the results were, but even if it's changed to where it's allowed where we can have 4 people in the home instead of 2, or in a retail space, we haven't put lock boxes on anything. We're always there to open it to make sure everything is sanitized, So I haven't heard that that's going to change. I know that there was going to be a conversation had. I still don't think that from the consumer, it's ever going to be well received again, unless they're desperate and in a hurry to sell their home, that they would want to do that. Retail, we have a couple of retail spaces
Well,
for
that was
sale.
that was our next one was retail.
Yep.
Give us the overview on retail.
It,
What I'm seeing is I saw a bunch of places closed, and I'm seeing a bunch of people move into them.
different kinds of businesses,
Mhm.
right? Restaurants, if you are in a facility where you can, if you're not already a restaurant where a restaurant has to have the grease trap and the overhead vents to comply, or they have to, have pre-baked bacon in their in a convection oven. But if you can become if you are a restaurant space or can become a restaurant space, there's a line all the way out to the 110 to get restaurant space in the South Bay. It's craziness. And then the space over by the harbor that used to be the gym, right? That
Yeah, the old goals. My
yes,
old stomping ground.
yeah. So I had that leased. I had that listing 6 years ago, and I had that leased. And when to another gym, and when they went to get their permit, their business permit, the city can't give them a permit because that the city of Redondo Beach has a master lease. No, the city of Redondo Beach was subleasing it at the time from the Tide Pool Commission,
Mhm.
and the Tide Pool Commission has the master lease, and the master lease says that anything that goes in there has to be destination, has to be a holiday beach destination. No gyms, no daycares. No, I know. I know.
Well, people that travel on vacation use gyms.
I
That's a
know.
big amenity with the hotels, and I think
They,
didn't they have a deal with Crown Plaza?
they did. They did. So it wasn't allowed, and then a restaurant wanted to go in there, but to it would be so expensive, the TIs, to vent that and put those vent hoods in that they need, and the ceiling of that facility is the Crown Plaza pool. So you can't go up. You have to figure out a more creative way to get your vents in.
And
So it's
that's why it's been sitting empty for how long?
6 years.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Um, well, I'll tell you, it's just as I said, everything is up in the air. Everything is crazy. It's like the Wild West out there when it comes to the real estate in every market. Um, I know that there was one other item that you wanted to speak about. That
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Thank you, because that was, to me, because we've been in the business for so long, and grew up in the business and grew up here, and that's why we do so much work with the associations and stuff, is to give back to the community. And like you said, there's a lot of property owners that don't know what remedies are available to them, and I'll sit on the phone all day for free and share that information with anyone that needs it, because that's what we're here for. That's, everyone needs to have that resource in their little black book. As I've said before, you have an accountant, an attorney, and you need somebody that deals with real estate investments to answer your questions and not worry that you're going to get a bill later. So, and there's a lot of agents in the South Bay that will gladly do that for anyone. But the thing that impacted me the most was the predators who were around, and still are, and I didn't realize it. But I have a client, and I'll make this fast, Jackie. I know you have more show to do, but I have a client who I've been managing her properties for 28 years. Since I moved here, she was one of my first clients, and she has a very nice home around the Esplanade Catalina area avenue, and she, in the last 5 or 6 years, decided to sell her rental properties. So we've been liquidating those assets, setting them up in charitable remainder trust for her, because she was sick. She was twice cancer survivor and healthy, but she was starting to realize that she wasn't remembering everything how she should, and she wanted to liquidate her assets and get all of that settled, and have her trust done and all of that. So we did all of that, and then a couple of years ago, she and I were have conversations. We've been good friends, and we'd go to farmers market together. She got to where she didn't like to drive, and I would take her to farmers market. She had a little a real service animal, companion animal, not one you
real
find.
one, not a fake one.
You could buy the certificates on the internet. But so she had a service animal, Lucy, for probably 12 years. And she said to me that she wanted to age in place, because I said maybe her townhome is 2 stories and then another level to the garage. I said maybe you should think of selling this and moving to a facility or to a 1 story where it'll be easier for you. And she's like, no, I can move downstairs. There's a downstairs master. I can rent out the upstairs and I can move to the downstairs master and have in-home care. Right. That was her dream. And there were 2 other people in the South Bay that knew that was her dream. Someone at the health district and someone in the cancer care community too. And I told her that I would help her. All the healthcare facilities here will refer 3 or 4 companies that provide that kind of service, and they have vetted the people that work with them that come in during the day and help with meds and shopping and stuff. And she said, okay, she finally agreed to that because she just wanted to hire someone, run an ad and hire someone because she was frugal. And I said, no, you need to have an agency. You need to have, some vetting that goes on there and some insurance that they are bonded and licensed and stuff. So out of the blue one day, she called me and said, you don't need to help me set up appointments. My brother and she's been estranged from her brother for years. And she has
not sounding good.
She has no children. Yeah, she said, my brother and I are friends again, and he's going to help me with all of this. And I was thrilled for her. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. And that's the way it should be. And I feel better now that you have family and all that. So we left it at that. It was the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, everybody's traveling, celebrating. I came back after New Year's and was just getting ready to go back to work and do all that stuff. One day the phone rang and this gentleman said, is this Michele Lehman Brown? And I said, yes. And he said, you're a property manager? And I said, yes. And he introduced himself to me and said, thoroughly enough that I knew he was who he said he was. And he said to me, do you know where my sister is? And I said, I spoke to her right before Thanksgiving, and she said that you guys had reunited and buried your differences and that you were helping her with everything she needed to do. And he said, I haven't spoken to my sister in 25 years. And the only reason I'm making this phone call is because my daughter and my niece and she are close to have a relationship. My niece is an adult, graduated from college, lives out of town, has been trying to reach her and couldn't. And when she couldn't reach her, she got concerned and she drove there. And some young man answered the door of the townhome and said, I don't know who you're looking for. They don't live here. I don't know anything about it. And I said to him, oddly enough, I got a call yesterday from an unidentified woman, unidentified phone number, which most people wouldn't answer, but I'm a realtor. We answer all those calls. And she was crying and she wanted to tell me the story of my friend and that she had been moved out of her condo. This was an hour and a half conversation because of the tears and she wouldn't tell me how she knew her. Or she said they took her dog. They took her dog away from her, told her the dog was sick. And so she doesn't have Lucy anymore. And they told her that she needs to renovate her home because it hasn't been renovated for the 25 or 30 years, so that she needed to go live in this resort community, especially for seniors, the resort community by the beach, especially for seniors. And she needed to go there for 6 or 8 weeks while the home got renovated. So this person knew where she was, gave me the name of the home. And I went there immediately and was allowed in to see her. I credentialized myself, told them who I was, left ID with them, and they took me. So she's in a memory care locked inside of the ward, so she can't get out on her own and go home and see what's going on. And I knew the trust attorney because of the other real estate that we sold. So when I relayed all this to the brother, He immediately called the Redondo Beach police to file a missing persons report. I immediately called the trust attorney to tell him what had happened. And he was unaware that he had been fired. He'd been relieved. There was another trust attorney involved. A new trust had been drawn up. And he's looking at the deed. He went into his database and he said, Michelle, the title to that property is not in her name anymore. It's in, not even as a trustee. She's completely off. She quit claimed the entire property to this person. Do you know this person? And I said, I do. I met her once or twice. She was a new friend who would help walk the dog and take her to the farmer's market and lived on her street. And now, so as he's saying that, I'm looking it up in the multiple listing service. It's already listed for sale for $1.1 million, and it's listed with an out of area. It's listed with an agent who lives in South San Diego, and did not put it. Area 157 is the beach area, Redondo Beach. They put it in 699, which is area unknown, so that anyone that knows this person or is looking for a property over there, if they saw that, they would know. We've been to enough parties, they would know that that was her house for sale and go, what the hell? But they didn't. They put it in an out of area thing in the MLS. So with all the people that got involved so fast, thanks to cancer care community and the health district, everybody worked together real fast, and an attorney took it for fees later, and they were able to put a less pendants on the title and stop the sale of the property. But her car had already been sold. Her Charles Schwab account had already been closed. That's in excess of $500,000.
Oh boy.
And yeah, so the pain comes in that she would have moved on this. She would have done this anyway, but with everyone so disconnected and hibernating and being quarantined from, it just made it.
These people were able to take advantage of her. Wow. Elder abuse.
And she's not the only one, but I'm not going to go on because I know you have more to your story to tell. So, but she's so. I just want to, we've been working with a lot of the associations and the business organizations, North Redondo Business Association and the village too, to figure out how to get that message out to more people so that they. The day that she called me and said her brother was going to take over, I should have been a little more on.
Oh, well, you can't take that on. You can't take that.
Happy.
You can't take that on. No.
I know.
No,
I know.
You did a lot, but no, you can't. You certainly can't take that on. But yeah, no, there's we've all seen it. We've all seen the elderly person or couple that brings somebody in to help walk the dog or wash the car or neaten up the house, and the next thing you know, they're living in it. I've seen it. I've seen it. So
Yeah.
it's something that everybody needs to be aware of, and
Yeah.
don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Anytime, Jackie.
Michelle,
I'm always happy to be here.
Michelle, Executive Director and for the Real Estate Professionals team at Keller Williams South Bay. I'll see you around town.
Yep, maybe even Sunday.
Yeah, maybe Sunday fun day.
All right.
All right, take care. Take care, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's our show. Thank you for watching. Until next time.